Welcome to On Air with Dr. Pete. I am Dr. Pete Economo, and today we're going to talk about love. We're going to dive deep into the heart of human connection, whether you're in a relationship now or looking for one. This is something that you want to stay tuned for. Maybe you want to learn ways to nurture your current relationship, and you won't want to miss it. So grab a cup of tea. Or if you're working and working out or whatever you're doing, just be here with me, and thanks for tuning in. So love is something that is powerful. One of the things I say often is there are infinite amounts of love in the world. And I want you to think about that because it's so easy to get caught up in things or victimize ourselves or, whatever it is that we're stuck with. And there's no limit to love. There's limit to stress and anxiety. You can only feel anxiety for so long because the nervous system will kind of kick in and say, nope, I need to preserve this person. And that's not the case with love. With love, you can just feel it for as long as you want to feel it. And there's no limit to it. It's not like the system comes in and now there's certain things that happen, like we try and boundary ourselves or we get worried or we get, fear of vulnerability. So whether you are trying to look for romance, whether you're trying to keep love alive, how do you make sure that bond that we have with your partner grows stronger rather than drifting apart? Because drifting apart will be natural. It's what you can do to kind of stay connected. And that's what today I want to bring to you in some, takeaway, we like to do that here on Air with Dr. B, give you some takeaways that you can practice once you leave here. So there are going to be many strategies to cultivate love, whether to allow your relationship to thrive. This is whether you're early on or late in your relationship. And I've had clients who have been in marriages for 20, 30 years that when they do the work, it's the best it's ever been, whether it's about the connection that they have or even just the sex that they're having. These are things that we don't always talk about openly, but in my role as a psychologist, people talk to me about all these things. So here's your first strategy: prioritize communication. This is probably the most important one because you have to communicate. You have to be open, honest, empathetic. How do you let your partner realize you hear them? This is the bedrock of a successful relationship. It's not just about talking, though. Talking's the easy part. I mean, think about all the podcasts you're listening to, right? There's someone on the other end who is just sitting there talking. What is the listening? And that's what's key and something I talk a lot about with my clients. It's not just being there or communicating, or even if it's about their love language. It's not even just their love language might be words of affirmation. That doesn't mean you want to just communicate those. You need to make sure that you're letting your partner know that you are listening. You hear what it is that they need. That's one of the biggest challenges in relationships because somebody feels misunderstood or unheard. So when's the last time, sit here for a moment, when's the last time you truly listened? Not just to respond, but listening to understand. So here's a simple exercise. The next time your partner shares something, resist the urge to jump in. You don't want to give advice. You don't want to provide a solution. Just listen. I will say this is one of the hardest things. I actually do this in my corporate coaching. It's one of the exercises where we will have people in triad. So 3 people, one person talks about something they're struggling with, one person listens. And while you're listening, you cannot provide any feedback. And then after the time is up, the person can give some feedback, and the third person is there just to observe what happened. It's amazing how you realize the skill of listening, how powerful it is to take some time and to listen. So maybe you had that aha moment or something like this, but the another key aspect of communication is vulnerability. You have to let your partner in. You have to share your dreams, your fears, your insecurities. You have to let them kind of understand who you are at the deeper level. But they're not just going to know that if you don't communicate it. So it's critical that you actually help to communicate. Number 2, practice appreciation. So it's easy to get caught up in a routine of daily life where you're like, all right, who's picking up the kids? Who's taking the garbage out? All these sort of things. Who's cooking dinner? Who's picking up the dry cleaning? We do a lot for each other in any kind of relationship. And by the way, no matter what your relationship looks like, and that's the thing about On Air with Dr. Pete, there's non-judgment here. So doing what I do, I know that there's all different types of relationship. There's relationships where there's a man and a woman. There's, gay relationships where there's a man, woman. There's multiple people in relationships. You may have multiple wives, depending on, certain beliefs. Whatever it is, practice appreciation. it's just a moment to truly acknowledge your partner that will make a difference. So expressing gratitude is one way you can do that. Certainly, we've talked a lot about gratitude during the November month of last year. A simple thank you. Doing the dishes, doing something, one of the chores you don't usually do, just doing that, acknowledging their hard work. This creates a cycle of kindness, and it does strengthen the relationship. So don't wait for the milestones to show those appreciations or like a holiday. Do it with intention. And that's number 3. Be intentional about your quality time. We all have busy lives. And so whether or not, quality time is one of the love languages. And so not everyone's going to have that. But you still want to make sure that things don't slip through the cracks. So maintaining a strong relationship requires intentional effort. It's not just about being in the same room. It's about being present. How do you in the present moment with your partner? It doesn't mean that you have to spend hours together each day. It just means you want to create moments where you can connect. So it's not about quantity of time. It's quality. I will say that a lot. Quality over quantity. Number 4, keep romance alive. Let's talk about it. Romance. Romance is not just sex. It's not, there's all different ways that people can express intimacy. It's about and it isn't just these grand gestures. It's excitement and novelty in the relationship. So the little things that show your partner. Now, look, this is easy to do in the first few years. It gets harder as relationships go on. So maybe you might put like a sweet little note in their work bag, or surprise them with a soup, like one of their favorite treat, or again, doing something in that sort of way. Those small, thoughtful acts go a really long way. All right, number 5, embrace conflict with compassion. Let's talk about conflict. Most of the clients I work with are conflict avoidant. So there's no relationship that is free of it. Every relationship has conflict, has challenges, has some kind of disagreements. It's how you handle it that will either make or break it. So if you disagree with your partner, that's okay, but approach it with compassion. One of the things, especially because I work with high performers, they'll approach it with the win mentality. Now, I get it. Nobody wants to lose, especially for those I work with. And as a former athlete, losing is not in the vocabulary. What you want to do is try and understand their perspective and find some common ground rather than just trying to be right. Because if you're in the middle of a heated moment, just take a step back and ask yourself, what is my goal? Why am I being so strict or rigid around something at this point? So it will really help if you can, we've talked about perspective taking. Just have a different perspective just for one moment. Understand it. So here's a tip for this. When you're in the middle of a heated moment, take a step back and say, actually, you could say it. Like you might have a tap out word. If I work with couples, I'll say like, find a word that's neutral. And it reminds us to say, let's just tap out when we need to, rather than both of us escalating to a point where nothing gets resolved. So when there is this conflict, try and celebrate it. Acknowledge that there is a conflict there and that you're going to take a moment to just tap out, ask myself what the goal is, and then try and move on. Cultivated shared goals and values. So lastly, this number 6, building a lasting and loving relationship means having shared goals and values. Doesn't mean they have to be identical, but it's important to understand that you and your partner what you both want for your future, whether it's related to career, lifestyle, any of the values that we talk about. You want to align your goals or at least support one another along the way. It's not only strengthening your bond, but it will help you move forward. And here's the key. It helps you kind of connect more as a team. So let's recap these strategies. Prioritize open communication with empathy. Practice appreciation for all the small things. Be intentional about spending time together. Keep the romance alive with small, thoughtful gestures. Handle conflict with compassion and with a goal of resolution. And cultivate shared goals and values for a unified future. So this was On Air with Dr. Pete with some strategies to help you create and strengthen love with you and your partner. Remember, love is a journey. And so that's one of the things we say a lot in sport. It's process, not outcome. Or one of the teams says, journey is the destination. Love is a journey. And so On Air with Dr. Pete, we are here for you. We want to hear from you. Episodes are going to be about topics that you want to learn more about or hear about. So Head to officialdrpete.com if you have any show ideas or suggestions. But until then, spread a little kindness and love.